Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalica and today we're going to be doing some spicy ProRevenge. Neighbours kept parking in our lot. I froze them out. This happened around 20 years ago. Our family owned 2 apartment buildings, 3 units each. We lived in 2 of them, rented out the other 4. There's nothing but these 3 flats lining both sides of the road for about a mile, and not all have parking. On the side streets are houses and very little street parking. We had more land than most of these units, since it was also our home, so we had parking for around 16 cars. Everything was fine for literally decades. Then cars started appearing in our parking lot that were not our tenants. I blocked one in one day, went outside to see this a-hole drove through our bushes and across our yard to get out. I called the cops, nothing they could do, so I called a tow company and had them put up signs. We'd have to call them to have a car towed. The signs seemed to work, no more random cars. Until New Year's Eve one year, I arrive home and every space is filled. There are even cars on the street blocking in other cars. I'm beyond pissed. I call the tow company. They can't do anything for a few hours because they're so busy. We're in the Chicago suburbs. It's below 0 out. I have an idea. I dig out the lawn sprinklers and hoses. I run one hose inside to the laundry room faucet and turn on the hot water. This way, the hose and sprinklers won't ice up, but the cars and grounds sure did. 3 sprinklers, moved every half an hour or so, for almost 5 hours. Every car, every square inch of the parking lot, the street by the cars, encased in ice. I made it a point to spray ice in the locks, between the window sills and glass, in the grills. I put away the sprinklers and hoses and went to bed. 4 AM, furious pounding on the doors, doorbells ringing non-stop. We just smiled and called the cops. Waited until they arrived and then went outside. The cops were holding back laughter. These people were told to park here by their friend who owned an apartment several buildings away. The same idiot who drove over our bushes. I pointed to the tow sign and told the people to move their cars or get towed. In our town, cops can ticket on private property with the owner's permission, so all cars were ticketed. They were also towed, since nobody could get in their vehicle. I wish we had it on video. I'm really kind of conflicted about this one because it's New Year's Eve, so obviously there's some sort of party going on, and if this guy had the time to move sprinklers for 5 hours, they obviously weren't celebrating New Year's, so maybe let them just have a night? I don't know. What do you think? You should always pay your accountant, especially if you've got skeletons in your closet. My buddy's an accountant. He has his own firm. His biggest clients are small to medium-sized businesses. Well, he had a client who owned 4 different clubs and bars in 2 different cities. The client was always shady, always slow on payment. I was a customer of one of the bars, and they had a poker game that I would play in on Thursdays. Well, one day I'm at my buddy's house, having a few beers, and he's going on about non-payment from a client. I ask who. He doesn't want to say, but it's really bugging him because it's a significant chunk of change. He then says the name. We'll call him Scott. I'm like, wow, Scott isn't paying you? He then says Scott is saying business is way down, and I think, that's odd. I've been going to one of Scott's places every Thursday and it's packed. My buddy looks at me and goes, really? I go, yeah, he does this new cash discount thing. 15% off your tab if you pay in cash. My buddy goes, really? I tell him about my experience at Scott's bar, and eventually the topic changes. A few weeks later, my buddy calls me up and says, you going to Scott's bar to play poker? I say, yeah. He says, can I join? I say, sure. He goes, we get a few drinks in us, lose our money at poker. My house is closer, so he decides to crash there. On the way over, he breaks down his theory. He thinks that Scott is vastly underreporting his revenue. The reason why he suspects Scott is offering cash discount is because cash is easier to hide. He said he's going to do a deep dive on Scott's finances. My friend tells me his plan is to go to all 4 of Scott's establishments, get the prices he charges at each place, piece together how much alcohol he's buying versus how much Scott is saying his revenue equates to. He looks up how much Scott is paying in payroll, rent, bills, etc. Keep in mind, he has access to all of this information. He determines that Scott is basically using his credit card receipts and a little bit of cash to cover his cost of business, to include rent, payroll, insurance, liquor, food, etc. However, based upon the amount of products he's selling, he's suspecting that Scott is underreporting his total income by about 35 to 40%. He goes back into Scott's books even more, and he figures in the last year Scott has been underreporting his sales by 35 to 40%, but he's also been underreporting his sales by at least 20 to 25% for years on end. Simply put, there is no way Scott is going through as much product and as much alcohol as he's purchasing and having the revenue numbers that he's claiming. He's underreporting his sales to his accountant, which means he's also underreporting his earnings to the IRS. By this point, Scott owes my friend thousands of dollars that he hasn't paid. He said his total amount owed could buy a brand new motorcycle, but he never gave me an exact number. My friend decides to heck with getting repayment from Scott. Let's get repayment from the IRS through the whistleblower program. He's estimating Scott's underreported his revenue by millions of dollars over the course of years. The whistleblower fees he'd earned from the IRS far outweighs the amount Scott owes him. The IRS will pay between 15 to 30% of what they collect. So, with the assistance of a lawyer, my friend gathers all the evidence he has of Scott's underreporting to the IRS and files a whistleblower report with the IRS. During this time, my friend fires Scott as a client for non-payment. Now, this part gets a bit boring because there's a lot of legal wrangling back and forth, and this went back and forth. However, eventually the IRS comes down on Scott, and they come down hard. It's estimated that Scott underreported his income to the IRS by about $4.5 million. Now, my friend never told me how much the IRS was able to recoup, but Scott's businesses are no longer his businesses, and $4.5 million would put the whistleblower reward at $675,000 to $1.3 million. Keep in mind, it's based on what the IRS collects, not the amount that's reported. I've asked my friend how much he got in the end, and he simply says, "I no longer have a mortgage, and it would have been much cheaper for Scott to just pay me." This next one is quite long, but it has a beautiful chef's kiss ending. Mwah. Landscaping owner rips my friend off for $400, so my friend makes him incur $15,000 in expenses. Word of note, this is not me, but posting up here for a friend who currently resides overseas. Long story, but worth the read. A while back my friend was selling some stuff online, and among the items was a water heater. You know, the ones you see in every community hall or church kitchen. It was in working condition. He threw it up online for $150 and got an email from a person who runs a landscaping business saying he'll give him $100 cash today. Done. 2 weeks later he gets an email saying that it's not working. Weird. So my friend offered to give a full refund or cover the repair cost if it's under $100. The guy instead sent an invoice for $400, saying the repairs had been done, and if my friend doesn't pay it in 48 hours, he'll send a debt collector after him. He paid it, out of fear, and emailed him the confirmation. The landscaping owner then emailed back saying, "This is the price you sometimes have to pay when selling secondhand electronics," followed by a "Have a great day, don't let this hold you back," with a smiley face at the end of the email. About a month later, my friend was in a bar and he overhears a girl talking about how her boss, who runs a landscaping firm, screwed over some dumbass selling a water heater. My friend said, "Oh damn, I gotta hear this, do you mind if I join your table?" And the girl said sure, and she told her story. Her boss had bought a busted water heater from a second-hand store for $25 and a working one for $100, and billed the seller for the repair of the busted one before he sold it on for $300 to some community group. My friend asked, "Who did this so I don't hire this guy to fix up my yard? Ha ha ha." She says the company name, and lo and behold, it's on the email of the guy my friend sold the water heater to. He was the dumbass in the story. He told me he was pretty angry about it, but then COVID hit, so he had other things to worry about. 18 months later, he was browsing the website he originally sold the water heater on, and he saw a bunch of landscaping materials. Shovels, gardening stuff, wheelbarrows, lights for working at night, drills, nail guns, some construction materials, and a generator. Now, in my friend's location, apparently, if you're selling a generator, then you need to have a warrant of fitness for it. proving that it works, it's safe, no flayed wires, etc. Most people ignore it, and he saw that this generator is being sold by the landscaping firm. This generator, he said, just by looking at it, there was no way in hell it would have a warrant of fitness. Word of note, failure for a business to provide a warrant of fitness upon request for a generator after 2 weeks, when reported to the official departments and enforced by the court, the punishment is a hefty fine, and the courts often force the seller to refund the affected party and pay any costs that they incurred. Cue evil plotting music. He talked to his flatmate, who agreed that they would go 50-50 on the generator, but he would transfer the money. Now, my friend had never met the landscaping firm owner face to face when selling the water heater. He had left it outside and the pickup was confirmed via his security camera. And when he got there, it's clear that the owner, this grumpy looking man who enjoyed yelling at his employees, had emptied out his storage unit. The owner was very much, as it is, no refund. And the flatmate showed him the transfer confirmation that they take the generator for $800. No warrant of fitness is provided. Then they took it to a friend of theirs who's an electrician, and he agreed to check it and give an invoice for repairs, and to quote the friend, "It would be cheaper to buy a new generator, and to be honest, this generator shouldn't have been sold, it should have been scrapped." They also found that the main identifier number had been scratched off, but not a second number that is often recorded as well on warrants of fitnesses for tracking purposes. So they get in contact with the seller, telling him the cost for repair, around $5,000. He promptly tells him that he's not paying it, as it is, no refund, to which they then asked, "Have you got the warrant of fitnesses for the generator?" Silence for 2 days. They followed up with another email asking for it. No response. They then ask again and get an email from him saying that he'll take it back for $800. They say no, we want the warrant of fitness, and they get no response. They emailed him every day for 2 weeks. Nothing. So they printed out the original item listing that had been screenshotted and had been archived on the website, and reported him to the website, and then to the government. 4 months later, my friend is in court and the guy went up to him. He tells them that he will take back the generator for $800 and that my friend and his flatmate will be going in to tell the judge that the seller has refunded them and that they want it all dropped, and that's what's happening here, full stop, end of story. They are doing what they're told to do. My friend said no. So they went into the courtroom and it's over very quickly. The inspector the government sent out to inspect the generator stated that it was in poor condition, it shouldn't have been sold, it was highly unsafe, and that the seller had tried to get the generator a warrant of fitness in early 2021, but instead had been told that it was to be repaired or scrapped and it wasn't to be sold. They identified it by a second number on the generator that they took down in the original attempt to get it warrant of fitness, which had not been scratched out like the first. The judge ordered the landscaping firm owner to refund the flatmate the $800, pay the $5,000 for repairs to the generator, and was ordered to pay a $10,000 fine, which would be given directly to my friend's flatmate as the affected party. When they left the courtroom, the owner was furious and told them that under no uncertain terms was he paying them a penny more, and that he couldn't understand what he had done to deserve such treatment. To which my friend said, "Remember the water heater?" He gave him a very confused look. "Remember the water heater that you bought for $100? Well, I do, because I sold it to you. And I know that you had a different one repaired and invoiced me for it." His jaw was on the floor, and to hit it home he said, "It's a bitch, isn't it? When what goes around comes around. Especially when it accumulated interest. You have 48 hours to pay, or a debt collector will be contacted. Remember, this is the price you sometimes have to pay when selling second-hand electronics. Have a great day, and don't let this hold you back." And they left. He paid the $15,000 2 days later. My friend and the flatmate split the $10,000 50-50 as they agreed, a combination of rent payments and study stuff. The generator they got repaired, and they got a warrant of fitness for it before selling it for $1,000 with a newly replaced identifier number. They then went out for a wonderful dinner and a night out in the town. In short, old landscaping owner rips my friend off for $400, so my friend makes him incur $15,000 in expenses. Mwah. Okay, so that's all for r/ProRevenge. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. Any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!